Yeah, Will Ferrari Puro Sanyu Review V12 SUV Game Changer 4K. Let's go. Let's go.
Sometimes you think you know all there is to know about the world. Everything has its place. Everything is as it should be. But the beauty of the future is that it can be an unpredictable place with new forces and new ideas that challenge the status quo. Some of which turn the entire world upside down. This is the Purosangue, a Ferrari designed not for the racetrack, but for families. Ferrari, the icon of the sports car world, is doing something that 10 years ago we'd never imagined. Delivering its first ever car with 4 doors and 4 full-size seats and an interior dripping in luxury, flipping the world truly on its head.
Some people would say that this car is a cynical attempt by Ferrari to cash in, to capitalize on the success of the Lamborghini Urus. And yeah, I was one of those people. I thought this was going to be aimed at people with more money than sense, and that it would follow the same dry format, that Ferrari would cram in a twin-turbo V8 with a torque converter and 48-volt active roll stabilization, you know, standard rules. But then I had a closer look at the thing, and it seems Ferrari have torn up the rulebook completely.
The name Purosangue translates from Italian as pureblood, an odd choice for an SUV you might think, but then it does use a thoroughbred Ferrari engine, the 6.5-litre naturally aspirated V12 borrowed from the 812 Superfast.
Here, it makes 725 horsepower, so it goes like a Ferrari, and it sounds like a Ferrari. Plus, because they've used their 7-speed dual-clutch transmission, the gear changes are lightning quick. Yeah, this is a proper prancing horse.
But while this might feel like Ferrari turning the world of SUVs on its head, cynics will point to the fact that while the Purosangue trumps its rivals for peak power, Ferrari's effort is actually down on torque, with 716 Nm versus 850 in the Urus and 900 in the DBX 707.
But you know what? I don't think those particular numbers matter because it's still ridiculously quick. 0 to 62 in 3.3 seconds. I mean, that's as quick as you're going to accelerate in any SUV out of the factory. Top speed, 194 miles an hour, top of the class, and 0 to 124 miles an hour in 10.6 seconds. By my maths, that's over a second quicker than the Urus Performante and the DBX 707. It's an
That bit tough. That bit tough.
animal.
And there's one other top trumps category where the Purosangue destroys the competition: cash money. The starting price for Ferrari's family car? £313,000. That's more expensive than even the Rolls-Royce Cullinan. But that's the price you pay for exclusivity. The Urus is based on an Audi. The fastest Cayenne is based on the slowest Cayenne, and the DBX borrows its engine from a Mercedes. This is an original design, not based on lesser cars donated from a parent company.
And in this world, that counts for an awful lot, as does design. So let me give you a quick whistle-stop tour around the Purosangue. The first thing you notice about this car is that it's split into 2 distinct sections, a body-colored upper section and a black lower section, which almost gives you the impression the body is bolted to the chassis. The face itself is typical Ferrari in the modern era, so it has a lot in common with the Roma, SF90 and the 296 GTB. But, whisper it, I think this car is prettier than all of those. It just has an amazing stance, a really good profile, and it's just a brilliant thing to look at. This particular car is finished in Rosso Corsa, or traditional Ferrari red, but regardless of which color you go for, all Purosangues have this black strip across the front, which is there to help disguise the various sensors on the front of the car, including a forward-facing camera and some ultrasonic parking sensors. The rest of it, though, is an exercise in aerodynamic trickery. And by that, I mean it's absolutely covered in vents and ducts and slats. Look at this, down here on the leading edge, the front splitter channels air underneath the car in a controlled way towards that rear diffuser. And you might think that the headlights are located here. They're not, they actually live down here. These are just basically vents to help channel air partly into the engine bay to help keep things cool, and also over the top of the wheel arch to reduce the turbulent air around this area. Typically on this kind of SUV, the wheel arches are in place to provide an air of ruggedness and protection from the elements, but on the Purosangue, that's completely different. These are all about aero. Notice on the front edge, this open section helps to channel air around these 22-inch wheels at the front, 23s on the rear, and then the rear edge helps to keep the air concealed along the side of the car. Beautiful to look at and absolutely fascinating.
So,
Forget everything you knew about
these is facts that you would have never thought even to learn, man.
war games. The large-scale action game War Thunder will bring you a storm of unforgettable...
There's more aerodynamic trickery at the rear. The airflow initiated by the front splitter is evacuated by a dramatically sculpted rear diffuser. And higher up, it has a spoiler designed not for downforce, but to divert air along the curved rear glass. This, according to Ferrari, eliminates the need for a wiper. As for the boot, it's a fairly good size, with good underfloor storage, an adjustable partition, and naturally, an electrically operated boot lid.
Speaking of electrically operated, let me show you the Purosangue's party piece. Suicide electrically operated doors. The front's open as normal, but the rears are operated using this tiny latch. A short press just presents it to you, but then a long press opens it automatically, allowing you to step easily inside the car. And look how wide the gap is. Then, once you're in, loads of headroom, a significant amount of legroom, and it's a pretty comfortable place to hang out. This blows my mind because Ferrari don't normally mess around with fancy doors, but they've done it in the Purosangue. If you want to close it, push and hold this button and say goodbye. Rolls-Royce who?
In the rear, passengers will find a cabin erring more on the sporty rather than luxurious side with 2 individual seats. Both have Isofix for 2 baby seats, and there's an armrest with a wireless charging dock next to a pair of USB ports and a clever rotary control for the heating system that rises from the center console. Storage is a bit stingy, but there's an optional sunroof letting in plenty of light or a carbon roof that comes as standard. As family cars go then, it's surprisingly good. What you really want to know, though, is whether it's fun to drive, and the good news is, it's brilliant. Part of that is down to the monster V12, the astonishingly quick gearbox, and the epic sound. But a lot of it is down to the car's astonishing agility.
If you're expecting this car to feel like a big old lump, you're gonna be disappointed because it's really, really lovely to drive. It's up on its toes, it feels agile, it feels more like a sports car than an SUV. The steering's really interesting. So in most Ferraris, you get lightning quick steering. That isn't quite the case here. It's a little bit slower than in any other Ferrari. But it's playful, even though it's an SUV.
Part of that agility comes from the fact that it sends most of the power to the rear wheels, so it will happily drift if you want it to, but if traction's what you need, a power transfer unit up front can engage the front wheels for all-wheel drive in a similar way to the Ferrari GTC4 Lusso. A unique rear-wheel steering.
It's playful, even though it's an SUV.
Part of that agility comes from the fact that it sends most of the power to the rear wheels, so it will happily drift if you want it to, but if traction's what you need, a power transfer unit up front can engage the front wheels for all-wheel drive in a similar way to the Ferrari GTC4 Lusso. A unique rear-wheel steering system which